Good morning, everybody. My name is Jean Sanchez, planner with the Community Development Department. Excuse me. We will now begin the DRC meeting for today, June 11th, 2025. It is 9 o'clock a.m. The Before we get started on our items, let's go take a we'll take a roll call. Community Development Department is here as well as planning representatives, police,
Mike McKinley, thank you.
public services, engineering,
Vladimir Simonovsky, city engineer, present.
fire,
John Howe.
building.
John Hanson.
Perfect, thank you. So the first item of the agenda, the first three items are actually special events. The first special event is Reyes Fitness Professionals in Northwest Rec area, the Barbecue Row. And the dates of the event is July 8, 2025 from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. as well as July 12 from 6 a.m. Is that correct? 6 a.m. to 9 a.m.?
They're doing, I know for sure, the permit is the 7 a.m. is 7-8 from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. in the evening. And then I think there is, yes, a second one, which is a morning one. There's
Okay.
two dates. So the first one is July 8th, which is it's a fitness event, the Durand Fitness Event, which is 5 to 8 p.m. at Northwest. And then that is on one of the fields. And then there's a July 12th, another same event, just a different date that is in the morning. So yes, the times are correct. So that's a morning one. Organized fitness event, looking at about 50 people. He handles all the registration for that. They've provided the layout, so they'll be running interior of the Northwest complex and then doing like fitness stations throughout. Expect about 50 people for each event. This is his like third year doing it. So it's one's in the morning, one's in the evening, same event, just two different time options for that.
Perfect. Planning, community development doesn't have any questions. Police,
I don't have anything, thank you.
public services, engineering,
No questions.
fire,
No questions.
building.
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Great. Moving on to the next, the Fifth Degree Tours, number 2, LLC, Rhythm and Boots Summerfest. That's also at the Northwest Rec. And the date of the event is July 26, 2025, from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. And this is being handled by Rec.
So this is a new event that's coming. Like she said, it is a Rhythm and Boots Summer Fest at the amphitheater on July 26th from 1 p.m. until 10 p.m. It's going to be music fest. They will have food vendors and alcohol at the event. They provided all the insurance or the information regarding the dispensing of alcohol, tickets for it. They're expecting about 3,500 for the event. They've attached the layout and everything. Once they get approval, they'll provide the last piece, which is the insurance for the event, but they provided all the additional information for it.
Sorry, let me scoot over to your site plan here. All right. Planning doesn't have any comments. Police?
I don't have anything. Is alcohol being served?
What'd you say?
Is alcohol being served?
Yeah.
Or so we're going through off duty?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Public services, engineering,
No comments.
fire,
No comments.
building.
I don't have anything. Thanks.
All right. The last event on our list is the One Sound Group Sabor Latino Fest, also at the Northwest Rec. It is going to be held on July 19, 2025 from 12 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Yes. So this is a new event, another new event coming out in July. So just about a month away, July 19th from 12 p.m. to 10 p.m., which is our curfew, expecting about 4,000 people. They will also have food vendors and alcohol. So we will have off duty. They did provide a layout as well. And they provided all information for alcohol and the licensing for that. So it's a new event coming out. This is tied in. We've had like someone that's worked with us before on this one, so they provided all the information, but it is a new event at the amphitheater.
Planning has no comments or questions. Police?
With the new events, we're making it quite clear that 10 o'clock's cut off.
Yes.
so that we don't have the issues we've had in the past where they run over and we get complaints.
Correct.
Okay,
10 o'clock.
thank you.
Public Services Engineering,
No comments.
Fire,
No comments.
Building.
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Alrighty. Thanks so much. Thanks, Carolyn. Have a good day.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda are the plats. The first one is the Kelly Park Village plat. This is the second submittal. Y'all have seen this before. This was previously called Wingspan. Um, our city legal counsel as well as our surveyor had pretty minimal comments for this, and they're being addressed offline. So I don't have any additional comments from planning. Police, do you have comments on this one?
I don't have anything right now. Thank you.
Public services and engineering, any comments on this one?
So the drainage easements,
Mm-hmm.
it says are fully dedicated to the public for perpetual use.
Yes.
Is that in the development order that we take over the drainage system completely?
It is. Those easements are, if you look at it and superimpose it on the MDP or CSP, if I recall correctly, they're under the driveways. There's no per se roads on there. They're all drive aisles internally. So there's no public roads. This is in the Kelly Park. Private roads aren't permitted, but they
the
have
drainage
private
is.
driveways, and those easements are, I think, underneath those. I think. Is that right? Um,
Do we have anybody from the applicant?
let's see if the applicant is here. Sir, will you come up here and answer some questions? Are you the applicant for Kelly Park Village? Okay. Okay. All right. There's no applicant here, Vlad.
Okay.
If you have those comments, I'm happy to send them to Genevieve with
Yes.
bullets.
Yeah. Well, I would like to clarify that because typically it will be dedicated for public use only, for emergency only, right? Being to the counter to the city. They're in the city, so technically it should be dedicated to the city, but for emergency only, not so.
Will you send those to me, or do you want me to just send it to her?
I will send it because I need to look at the original plans and see what was
Okay.
actually approved.
I can
Yes.
send you the CSP if you'd
Yes.
like.
Okay.
Fire, any comments or questions on this one?
Nothing further.
Building division,
I don't have anything. Thanks.
and the applicant's not here today for this as well as the preceding item. So if you have any comments, feel free to send them over to me or speak them to the record, and I'll get them to her. The next item on the agenda is the residences at Emerson Park replat. And I don't have any comments on this one. I think they're just, it was replatting. I'm sorry, I can't recall. It was replatting certain lots because of, I think, drainage easements, maybe. And I don't have any comments. Our city surveyor as well as our legal counsel don't have any comments either. So if it gets approved today, it'll move forward to public hearings. With that said, planning has no additional comments. Police,
I don't have anything. Thank you.
public services, engineering,
No additional comments.
fire,
No comments.
building.
I don't have anything. Thank you.
All right. Is the applicant here? I don't think they were. Okay. The next item on the agenda are site plans. The first one is a major development plan for the Floridian Town Center, and this is for the hotel site. Is the applicant available or present today? Okay, looks like the applicant is not present. I will tell you that this is a project being managed by Bobby Howell. I'm filling in for him today, and he has several comments. I think about 23 comments for planning. Um, So the applicant will have to answer those questions before this goes anywhere else. With that said, police, do you have any comments for this proposed
I don't have
site
anything.
plan?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Public services engineering?
Yeah, we made some comments on just some things that are not addressed, of course, because it's a major development plan yet. It will be addressed through the construction site plan, and we're just looking forward to the response.
Okay. Um, did you say you sent comments?
Dale
Dale did?
Dale uploaded the comments. Yes.
Okay. I printed these out the time that I printed
Yes.
these.
Yes. I understand.
I don't think we had Dale's comments yet, so I'll reissue the comments with
Okay.
public services comments.
Okay.
Okay. Fire?
I'm not sure if Chief Holderfield submitted comments, but he had some concerns about not completing the auto turn and access at certain points throughout the parking lot. So he's going to reach out to the applicant to address that when he gets back in town.
Okay. He can just also send them to me and I'll reissue the comments then.
Sounds good.
Okay. Building? Any
I,
comments on
I,
this one?
I don't have anything on this one. Thank you.
All right. The next item on the agenda is the construction site plan for Mid Florida Logistics. This is the second submittal, and Amir Hamza is the project manager.
Good morning, everyone. So this is a CSP just to have for an existing site plan for just to have modifications to the storm drainage pipe system. Future land use is industrial, zoning is light industrial. Planning and zoning didn't have any comments. I think it was just public services that had comments.
Okay, is the applicant present? Hi, Dave, do you have any comments or concerns about the comments you received?
Yeah. Let me explain. Dave Schmidt, Engineering, 12301 Lake Underhill Road, Orlando, 32828. There was just some public work comment. This has already been built and accepted by the city. The only change we're coming in for is the owners wanted to change some internal secondary storm system in the back of the first parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
So they've upsized some pipes and they've added another pipe. That's the only change to the plans. Everything else for the first building and all the site work is completed and accepted by the city already.
Is Gene, is there a particular reason why is this considered back to DRC? Because it's only I would consider it as a construction revision.
Correct.
It is a revision to a CSP.
Okay.
We take those to
Okay.
DRC. Yeah.
See, and I did.
So yes, Dale Smith is actually the engineer that we had recently who was reviewing the plans. I talked to him a little bit yesterday and a little bit this morning again before the meeting. It appears that there were some calculations that were missing, that he couldn't complete fully the review process. So
On the secondary system?
I believe so.
Okay,
So if you can maybe reach out to him, give him a call,
sure.
and see what exactly was missing there, so we can kind of speed up the process of the
Okay,
review.
great. Yeah, they were just upsizing some of the storm pipe. They had concerns on the amount of runoff coming into the system, and they wanted to upsize some pipes.
Because it was a little bit difficult to delineate what is actually changing from the original plan. Maybe the original plan, if you can also attach to it the original plan.
Yeah, I
So
thought we
that way he
provided
can
a
compare
colored
them.
rendering or a colored graphic showing what pipe or pipes were changing.
Okay.
So we can provide that. But
Okay.
yeah, shouldn't have any other comments.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dave.
Planning any other additional comments? No, there were no comments. Police,
I don't have anything. Thank you.
public services,
No additional comments.
fire,
No comments.
building.
I don't have anything. Thanks.
All right. The next item on the agenda is the 220 South Highland Avenue subdivision. This is the first submittal for the construction site plan, and Dr. June Son is the project manager. Okay. Come on. Sorry, June.
No, it's okay.
Go ahead, June.
Yeah, good morning. This is Jun Song, planner at the Community Development Department. So this is a revision to CSP that has been approved previously, and then um, they had some revision. Planning had some minor comments about like indicating the width of driveway, stuffs like that, but um, planning comments were some minor. And we have not received any public services comment yet. Other than that,
Yeah, I
yeah.
believe Dale uploaded those. They're probably not included in your report, but they should be uploaded now.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I think you
Yeah,
did it yesterday.
I
Yes.
can revise the comment letter and forward it to applicant. And
Sorry.
yeah,
So we'll reissue those comments
Yes.
from public services for this one. I'm sorry, I'm having technical difficulties in getting this visible. But is the applicant attending? Oh, it's Dave.
Dave. Good morning
You have
again.
any?
Dave Schmidt, Engineering, 12301 Lake Underhill Road, Orlando, Florida, 32828. We've received the comments. I have the public works comments in here, unless there's others that will be added, but there was a few in here. We've reviewed the comments. We're ready. We'll address them and resubmit. We have no questions. Also, for your benefit, because I know one of the questions I think from Fire was what changed. This was apartments before, and they switched to single family lots. So that's the revision from what we had approved before to what they're doing now.
Are they single family attached or detached?
Detached.
Okay. What
Yeah.
lot
That's it.
sizes are they?
I have to check. I have to look. I can get with you.
That's fine.
Thank you.
What is the driveway issue?
I'm sorry?
Didn't you say there was a concern about the driveway length or something?
so I believe they provide driveway 25 feet. But the code requires 30 feet, so that was one of my comments.
Well, we need to stick to the code because we're not going to deal with vehicles hanging over the sidewalk that we have to deal with from a public safety perspective. So the driveways need to be what the driveways need to be.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. No additional comments from planning, public services,
No additional comments.
fire,
No comments. Thank you.
building.
Nothing, thanks.
All right. The last item on the agenda is Chandler Oaks. This is a proposed subdivision in the Kelly Park Interchange Form-Based Code area. Bobby Howell is the project manager, and I'm covering for him today. And apologies, I'm having technical difficulties. We didn't have much comments other than providing some housekeeping items like fish and wildlife permits, plating, and they have an arbor mitigation fee as well as architectural elevations. With that said, is the applicant in attendance? Could you please state your name for the record?
Yep. Good morning. Blake Wagner with Kimley Horn and Associates, 248 West Cliff Drive, Ocoee, Florida, 34761. Didn't have any comments for staff. Just want to say thank you to Vladimir for the call last week. That was really helpful. Helped us resolve all our comments. And I don't think we have any further questions for staff at this time.
All right, police, any other comments, additional comments?
Refresh my memory where this one is. This is at Chandler and Kelly Park.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
To the west side of Chandler.
I think I've made this comment before. I just want to make sure that, all homes face a named street, and if there's any alleyways that they are lighted, street lighting, not on-house lighting. Street lighting is a requirement.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Public services engineering?
We have no additional comments. I had a meeting, I believe it was last week, with the Kimley Horn team, and we addressed most of them, and we just expect the next submittal.
You had no comments for this issuance of comments, right? Did you have comments?
No additional comments to what we already posted.
Okay, I didn't
Yes.
get any comments, so I'll reissue those if there are comments from Dale.
Okay.
Fire,
Nothing from fire.
building,
I don't have anything. Thanks.
great,
Thank
thank
you.
you. All right, that's the last of our items on the agenda. Does anybody have any discussion items?
I do. Um, it's a public safety issue, but it's not necessarily in our wheelhouse. Um, from an infrastructure perspective, the city has no infrastructure or is not planning on any infrastructure for high speed connection. What's it called? Um,
Fiber?
fiber to speed up our connections and everything else. We've looked at doing some intersection cameras and we're restricted by our infrastructure. So as these new developments come in, can we require them to put conduit in to provide us with the basics for start building out an infrastructure for fiber so that the city has access to fiber in the future? We're missing a lot of
Mm-hmm.
opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
and we're already millions and millions of dollars behind to try to retro some of the areas of the city where we need fiber. And I'm just trying to figure out,
Yes.
does the code can we address the code to start requiring them to put the tubing in or whatever needs to be put in, because it is a public safety thing. We're going to have access through fiber to some of these things if the Wi-Fi goes down
Yes.
and other things.
So the few recent ones that I've seen subdivisions going in, they're already putting some fiber inside. So I approved all these through a right-of-way permit separately, right? So they're making connection to the main street and they're drawing from there and they're going inside the entire subdivisions, pretty much. I
But is
think
it a
Gigapower
dedicated
is one of
one that
them.
the city would have access to, or
There's, I don't know if there's a dedicated line, but I'm pretty sure if they have it on the main street, we can probably utilize some of that. Maybe they can dedicate a separate, they can put a split system at the intersections, and we can probably sit down with them and have this
so?
discussion.
What do we need to do to start making that a requirement that the fiber or access to fiber or fiber line is set aside for the city, and obviously then Public Works would have to track in their mapping system where these fiber systems are, just like they do with the sewer, water, and everything else you all track in your GIS system.
Do you want to add it to the land development code, Vlad? I think that's what Chief is trying to.
I don't know if we can. I mean, these are all private companies, so I don't know if they come after the fact. For example, the developer is gonna
I mean,
start
we can
building the
have
houses, right?
them,
So they come after the fact. After all the infrastructure is in
right?
place, then they come in and then they put
We
these
can
fiber
have
optic
them
lines.
deal with like a fiber
Mhm.
company, just like they deal with Duke, which
Yes,
is a
yes,
private
exactly.
entity,
Well, they've
right?
got everything open and they're dealing with
Yeah.
fiber during the construction process and during the foundation of it. So why can't we make a requirement that they set aside some kind of fiber access to the city for future use, so that we have this connectivity, or at least minimize the cost to the city and our residents in the future to have some kind of fiber connectivity?
Are we looking for the traffic signalization mainly, or
Well,
for
that,
safety cameras?
safety
Hmm.
cameras, I think it would be a benefit to you all. If we had the fiber running through, you might not have to, I don't know if the water meters could connect to fiber in the future versus what they're currently doing, and overcome some of the issues we have with connectivity sometimes in all the towers that we have and everything else. But it's also a safeguard if we have a hurricane that comes through and wipes out the infrastructure for communication. Let's face it, everything's safer in the ground. That's why,
Well,
electrical's
yeah.
underground and everything else. So I'm just, it's just a matter of how do we start preparing the city and offset some of the costs that's going to be associated, because that's where everything's going. We can't continue to rely on this Wi-Fi system that we rely on, as well as these towers for connectivity for our water meters and everything else, when we need to start building an infrastructure. And I don't think it's an unreasonable cost for a builder who wants to come into the city to have to at least lay the foundation for access for the city in the future.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I agree with you, Mike, on this. We just need to see, maybe sit down with IT and see how we can, what are the needs, right? What are the most, I think the most critical facilities we probably want to connect with fiber optic. And some of the intersections, some of the public safety issues we need to address as well. We probably need to have like a master plan of what we anticipate to see, and then at that point we can start, because not one company may have it in one area and may not have a connection in another area, right? So we may have to deal
Well, we may
with
not have the
multiple companies that
we,
provide these services.
yeah, but I'm not necessarily looking for the connection because we're already void of connections because of the growth that's already here. I'm asking that they start building the infrastructure, put the infrastructure in. It, and I'm somewhat outside of my purview. It may be a cable that has the ends capped off until a connection's made to it, but it minimizes the city's expense to come back in and try to make those connections if the cable is already there, just like the water mains and everything else that's there. Why can't, while they have the ground open, put this, what we need in there for future fiber connection for the city, and it, save us a significant expense in the future when they're already have the ground open, they're already preparing to lay all this stuff, they're laying it for their subdivision anyways. Why not require them to come in and put the basic of what we may need in the future? And then, yeah, we may have to come back in the future and make connections in between things
Mhm.
for our own needs because we've allowed this to go on for so long and miss the boat in this area. But at the same time, it's only going to get worse and the cost is only going to get worse if we don't start having them build out the infrastructure, and we know where that infrastructure is. We just keep falling further behind,
Yeah, but
and then when we need it, we're never going to be able to do it.
I'm not fully understanding your question. So you want them to do everything inside, let's say, a residential development. What is going to be our benefits to have that in the residential development? Because they're not going to do anything outside of that. Like on the main road in the public right of way, typically these service providers like Gigapower or Lumen, let's say AT&T, they will put their own lines,
And
and
I don't
then
know that
from
they
there
need to
on they
go.
will branch it into these residential
I
developments.
don't know that they need to go into the residential. We can probably branch in if we ever had to.
Mhm.
The primary thing is on our major arteries and infrastructure. We have the ability to run fiber to all the future growth that's coming. You know, what is our fiber capability for Wild Oaks? Nothing. What is our planned fiber connectivity for Wild Oaks? Nothing. That's what I'm saying. We are going to have a need for the intersection lights that are going to go in up there, improvements to, signaling and
Yeah,
whatever else
that's
we
going to be
need.
connected. Yeah, the traffic lights will be connected through fiber. That's for sure.
But who's planning that?
So I think what Vlad is having difficulty in is the thing is we did have a meeting with a fiber optic company
Hmm.
who asked to have a meeting with staff maybe a couple years ago. How long ago? A few years ago. What they did is ask to be in our distribution for DRC items.
Hmm.
And the thing that they do, what I've noticed, is that they actually are the ones to catch the developments, take it upon themselves to go contact this person and ask while they have their construction going on, ask if they can put fiber in at the time. We also, and I think that was like what they said was the easiest for them, which is why they wanted to catch it during development review process so they could make these arrangements. Now, I understand, I agree. I think we should put fiber everywhere. Um,
Yeah.
but there are like AT&T. I know there are some areas in the city where they don't have
Mhm.
anything or they can't provide service yet. Um,
But
we could
if
probably look into it and see how we can.
if we start the infrastructure, then they have the ability to
Yeah.
progress it. And I'm not looking at, the company you're talking about is probably looking for private gain out of the whole thing. I'm not looking for private gain. I'm looking about what can the city do to ensure that we have access to fiber throughout the city,
So
and we got to start somewhere.
yeah, so a few years ago we started looking into this, myself and Rob Hippler, and we actually applied for a federal grant that was part of that 1.4 trillion. If you recall, there was like 55 billion were designated by the federal government for utilities. We did apply for some grants. We got some money for that, and we applied about $5 million for out of the 81 billion that was available, I believe, for network infrastructure. And I don't know what happened with that after my departure. I'm pretty sure we didn't get anything. But the master plan that we developed was to kind of connect with a separate fiber optic line designated only to the city all the major facilities, like all the water plants throughout the city, the fire stations, uh, police department needs. So we kind of developed some of that fund, right? But
Yeah.
there was going to be, if we were going to get that grant, there was going to be a separate line that we would have constructed with, you know,
And I get that, but you know, you're talking about finding funding to run that entire fiber. We're missing the boat when we have an opportunity. Had we already started having developers run our ability to have fiber, that cost might have gone from 8 million to 6 million or 5 million or 4 million or whatever. They're the ones coming in, building the development while they have the ground open. We already have a company that says it's easier to throw this in while it's being done. Why can't we have them lay the initial infrastructure in front of their subdivision so that we have access to fiber? And that way, when we need these connectivities, we might not need to do 15 miles. We might only need to do 7 miles because
yeah,
8 miles of it might
yeah.
already be in place because we've required the developer to do that. They want to come in and build. Why not pass that cost on to them and start preparing the city for a fiber infrastructure? And the longer we wait, the
But
more it's going
it's,
to cost
yeah,
us to complete this fiber.
it's a little bit more complex than that. I think the reason why they can't do that is because you have multiple service providers. So you
But
have
I,
AT&T,
I
you
don't
have
know.
Vlad,
other
I think what
companies.
Chief
So
is saying,
yeah,
just get the conduit in there.
but
Don't worry about the
you
provider.
can't just by doing the conduit. I mean, where are you going to connect it to?
It can
You
go
can't.
after that, but
Well,
as long
but
as we,
it can really because
Okay, let's just
yeah,
do this, Vlad. You already had the beginnings of a master plan for this.
yes,
Maybe we can further develop that, and then the requirement comes with it.
yes, yes.
You know
Okay.
how we require developers to do certain
Before
things?
we conclude, I would like Deputy Quinn Henry to come up and speak for just a second. Lavetta, come on up.
Okay. So just to kind of shore up what Chief is talking about, essentially, I'm accustomed to new construction. The conversation is whether we're doing water lines, if we're doing power lines. Duke is familiar with it. For public safety lines, we're saying add the conduit. It's conduit box. We map it. We need those for future growth. Public safety cameras, radio, whatever it may be. You do it in the planning phase and you construct it out the same way we do with water lines. And that way it's cheaper because the ground is already open to, like your point, what the company said. It is cheaper rather than retrofitting to put a conduit in the box. IT is familiar with the concept. We talked about it. And it's as simple as giving that space to have a public safety conduit alongside whatever that infrastructure is that you're proposing out. So whether it's the developer, whether it's the energy company or whomever, when we open up the ground, we just simply provide conduit. And if we start to make this a part of our regular planning request or requirements, it's simple. It's being done in other places. And so Apopka is no different with the rapid amount of growth that we have. The chief's point, doing it now so that we have it for the future helps us tremendously from a public safety perspective. I'd like to see that as just a normal requirement, no matter who it is, whether it's developers, water companies, power companies. We just need to get into that mindset that it's easier to require it at the beginning than afterwards, because as we all know, it's super expensive to retrofit anything and we have to play catch up. Questions?
Not for me. I agree with you. I think the first thing in
Yeah.
the first thing in order is to have that master plan. So, because for everything that we require developers to do, we have to attach it to something that the city has codified or adopted, right? So, we can work with public services to keep developing the master plan you all started a few years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe chat with their
Yeah, yeah.
consultants. I know you don't have
It's not
time.
that we didn't talk about this
Yeah,
years ago, right?
yeah.
It's just a matter of are we gonna have a designated system, or are
Mm-hmm.
we gonna rely on one service provider, or are we gonna rely on multiple service providers?
No.
And
Because it,
that's the critical
yeah,
point.
We
because it
should have
doesn't
our
matter who
own.
the provider would
Right.
be, right?
It's not even about the provider. It's the conduit and it should be ours. We should have the control over it. We're just asking for the conduit to run alongside what they're planning to do. And it is the government's conduit. So they could have their piping, they can run their own fiber and all of that. It's just simply giving us the piping so that if we decide that we need those safety proponents there, we have that conduit already there. And the way that it works is whatever they put in, that's theirs. It's that they own it. We're just saying we need our piping to go alongside it. And that's as simple as that. And I think that's a simple conversation. It's always kind of run out of planning, and many of them are familiar with the public safety aspect of
And
it.
as long as we have the piping, then the city, when we get to the point we need the fiber to a specific area, we can choose our own provider.
Right.
We don't have to be bound, because like you said, there's multiple providers. If we have the conduit, we can reach out to a provider and say, all right, we have the
Mm-hmm.
conduit in place with the exception of these little gaps that might be from existing development before we start this. What's our cost for you to get our fiber to where we need it to be? So we have a dedicated city fiber system that we definitely need. That's the direction of everything. We can't, this Wi-Fi system, we just can't rely on that. It's not reliable during hurricanes.
I mean, conceptually, I think we agree on everything. I think we need to talk to some probably more technical experts
Mhm.
that can tell us, okay, typically these fiber optic lines, they will have like a 6 wires, single mode or 12 multi-mode, right? And so on. They can go to 24 to 36. I've done this years ago for City of Orlando. Pretty much at the time, we had a contract for like 400 intersections, so all the way to Universal Studio. I kind of remember I drafted a lot of these things, right? So the thing is, what is the capability of the provider? Can they splice it right? Can they have a dedicated line for us, and in the meantime keep the services they're providing to these private entities, right? So that's something we need to define and discuss it with them and see what are the capabilities of doing that. If they can have like designated hubs for us, so we can have a designated line, what the cost going to be involved, and how the cost going to be distributed, who's going to pay for this.
But we're talking two different things.
Right, because if we
You're
have our
you're
own,
talking about the fiber itself.
Mhm.
We're talking about conduit, not right now with new construction. It's the conduit. The fiber is something else that comes after the fact. If we decide that we're going to do it, then obviously it needs to be us for the fiber itself. So I know the project that you're speaking about from Orlando. What I'm talking about is just simply the little pipe, the conduit. That's it. Conduit box, conduit box. We have our IT department is very well versed in that and understand that concept. And so they can speak to that. It's not the provider, because I think that's what maybe you're not understanding we're saying. It's just the conduit itself. That's where the pricing can get really, astronomical when you're trying to retrofit it. Slicing and all of that stuff, when it comes to the fiber specifically, we still will need to be the ones to own that, because when we choose the provider, and that's the secondary piece, we choose that provider, there's all the language about if it gets sliced during construction, who owns that, who repairs it. So I'm well versed in what you mean regarding that, but it's just the conduit right now. And that's where, from a planning perspective, when we start to say, hey, construction wise, this is the public safety aspect that we will need for future use.
and I think that we might be confusing two things. I don't think we should rely on the conduit and the fiber being run by private companies for their
Correct.
personal needs. We need our own dedicated tubing, our own dedicated fiber, so
Correct.
that
Yeah,
we're not
I
restricted,
would rather see that. Yeah,
so
Right.
that
that's
we're
what
not
we.
restricted by what a private company says. Well, yeah, we can get you all the way up to this point, but we don't have any space from this point forward, and then we're stuck.
No,
So
it's
it's
We don't
ours.
just
want to be
like
stuck.
dedicating space
We want our
for
own
this.
dedicated
Yeah.
tubing for our own dedicated fiber.
Yes.
That might come through a company or something else in the future, but that's down the road. But when the city decides we need to start running fiber, at least we can start having these construction companies, when they have the ground open, providing us with the tubing throughout that area. And, had we started this a couple years ago with the master plan, we might have Kelly Park Road
Yeah.
Sure.
almost done. We might have Plymouth Sorrento with a long stretch of fiber tubing. So I think it needs to be, get away from the thought of what these private entities can provide us with the fiber they're already installing for, TV and everything else for their customers. We want them to put in our own tube so that we can come back
I
with
agree.
our own private
Yes.
fiber network in the future.
I agree with that. What my plan was years ago, what I would prefer to see is, because we had a problem with the right of way. The right of way is very limited pretty much everywhere, right? And our utilities will go in first, and then somebody will come with the road widening and left turn lanes and right turn lanes, so we end up with utilities under the road, right? And then we have to do additional protection for it. So on the top of it, you're gonna have all these individual private entities, being Duke Energy or Lumen or AT&T or other uh, fiber optic companies, telephone cables. They will start weaving their lines all over the place. That makes it more difficult to actually install any other utilities, because you have more conflicts and eventually more cuts and
But if we do
problems
this,
down the road. So what my idea was, we need to start demanding. Maybe we make that a requirement. And I even talked to a lot of the utilities, these utility coordination meetings from I-4 and throughout the state, to create like some type of a box, maybe like 2 feet by 2 feet, 3 by 3, with the components inside. So so once a new development comes in, they run it through that. They take minimal space from the right of way, so the water utilities are more protected, right? And there's more room for other things, and they all have a designated uh, compartment in that system, right? So one of that could be ours, right? And then we have, okay, there's going to be one, let's say, for gas line, one for fiber optic, one for telephone cable. So you don't have to end up with all these cables all over the place, and including the electrical. Again, Duke Energy always responded that it's much cheaper for them. It's like cost ratio 10 to 1 to have everything overhead than to keep it underground, right? But maybe it won't be that. That won't be the case if they all collaborate. That was my idea. If they all collaborate and they have a dedicated fund for it, right? And we all put money into it, and we prepare this kind of a conduit. There is a larger conduit with designated compartments inside, right?
Understood.
So,
it would be
so that
significantly.
was my idea back then,
Right.
and I think that's still a good idea, because it helps everybody, the entire infrastructure on multiple levels.
Right. And I would agree for those entities, right? And so great idea. I think that what's important is that we recognize public safety. Sometimes cameras need to go up very quickly. There is a need for various reasons, and having our own conduit, because we cannot have to seek the permission of a partnership. So let's say we do put all of those groups together in one conduit, they would more than likely need to agree that they're okay with opening it for whatever else. Public safety needs its own. We need to be able to control our own. We, for many reasons, sometimes don't always share when we need to put things up from a public safety perspective. And so rather than to lump us all together, we need our own dedicated line so that we can move forward with the business at hand. And as we all know, public safety is the biggest thing out there. Residents want to know that they're safe and that we're doing everything possible. That is the technology. That is where we have moved to. And having to retrofit creates more expense, which passes off to our residents. We want to make sure that we're doing everything on the forefront to advance us to, the next level. This is what's being done. This is where we need to move to. And we don't need to have ourselves in a position where we're having to catch up on something that's being developed now. So over the next 10 years, when we start to work on these projects, making this a normal part of the planning piece, it normalizes it. But as I said, many of them are already well versed in this, because we're not the first city to ask that. It is being asked everywhere. We just need to get in the mindset that we continue to ask for that or require it when they're planning for their new build outs.
John, you were about to beat up your
Yes.
little button down there.
She talks more than you.
I told you there's a mini me coming.
He's terrified. It's terrifying,
Well,
Chief.
you can go. You can go.
All right. Well, with that
If you
said,
don't think
we
I'm
can.
going to well prepare her before I leave, come on.
Um, Anybody else have any discussion items? Vlad, we can work together to figure this
Yes,
out.
yeah, yeah.
And we'll be happy to help with
Yeah,
whatever we
we'll
can
coordinate
in our
with.
input and everything else. But
Yeah.
you know, again, I know you left, and this isn't a negative comment, but a master plan 2 years ago that hasn't been implemented, we've lost 2 years now. How
Yes.
many areas of the city could we have covered in the last 2 years with the massive growth we've had, with having tubing already in the ground and starting this build out? We're every year that passes, and you know, we probably need to really revisit the Wild Oaks area and see what we could get that developer to do to work with us to get something along Kelly Park Road as they're building out Kelly Park Road. Is there an opportunity to get this tubing in there? And you know, because that's where all the growth's coming.
Well, yeah, the opportunity with that will be with the widening of Kelly Park. So
Yes.
we can
Well, and
make that as part of that construction, right?
you know, when we do
I
these
think
things,
that will be reasonable because it won't be reasonable if we put the lines now and then we have to widen and then everything is under the road or all over the place that we're gonna have difficulties actually maintaining that system down the road.
Don't you have an upcoming meeting with Kelly Park on Friday, Vlad?
Yes, on Friday I think we have a bi-weekly.
What a great opportunity! Just
So
drop it on their
yeah,
laps.
yeah. So we can talk to Pools and
Yeah.
Bennett because they
I mean,
work on the design.
I think we just want this to be on the radar as these developments are coming through. We need to start talking to these developers about running this conduit for a dedicated fiber system for the city
Yep.
down the road when we need it. Again, you know, had we started it when you came up with your master development plan 2 years ago, where would we be right now? You know, but I think time is of the essence with all the growth that's coming, and we need to get ahead of it because we're already, you know, tens of millions of dollars behind in running fiber for our infrastructure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right, I'm done. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're lucky we have to go to somewhere else.
Thank you. Okay. Well, with that said, meeting's adjourned.